Have you guys listened to Young Thug's new album? Yo SCUTI, Oi SCUTI, Yo SCUTI. I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of worried for him. I was kind of worried that it would be quite terrible, because so far his musical output post getting off on those RICO charges hasn't been that great, and he's received a lot of bad PR online, and just generally with how hard Gunna's been going and the levels that he's been reaching, and how he seems to look physically, spiritually, mentally. He comes across like he's in a whole different plane. It just seemed like Young Thug was kind of struggling to kind of recapture some of that magic that he had before he got locked up. But I think he did a good job with Oi SCUTI. I think this is a really good album. Again, I don't know, I say it's really good. I say it's a good album. I don't think it kind of like stacks up to some of his better work. But in terms of everything that's gone on, the material that we've heard from him beforehand, what he's told us in interviews about how he's feeling and lack of motivation and not feeling inspired, and the RICO charge making, you know, maybe taking a little bit of the sparkle away from him and not having his friends around him and stuff. I think he did a good job with all those things, because I'm not too sure how I would react to the album if I didn't know about all the stuff he went through, because he divulged a lot with the interview that he did with Big Bank, right? That we all watched, I'm sure, that was really entertaining and very dramatic and full of loads of fucking things that people were pulling apart for ages. But I think he did a good job considering whatever mental state he said he was in. You got to start with a cover, right? You have to start off with a cover. The cover is very interesting. It features Young Thug essentially skin bleaching himself, like with Mekako. He looks like he's white, essentially, bleached his skin. It almost looks like, you know, when before Vybz Kartel went to prison. Before Vybz Kartel went to prison, this is kind of what he kind of looked like. And yeah, it's funny because I know a bunch of people within my extended family who did this back in the day. Nowadays, it's not a thing. Nowadays, I think everyone's way prouder to be black nowadays, which I think is a good thing. But there was a time in the past, if you're from the UK, you'll know there was a time in the past where black girls who are darker than I am, right? I'm fucking dark. But black girls who are darker than I am, back in the day, will tell you, oh yeah, I'm like Nigerian, a quarter Irish, a quarter Brazilian, you know, like some bullshit. They'd put contact lenses in and lie and say they're not contacts, it's the color of their eyes are actually green or blue and stuff. It's like, brother, sister, come on, Tola, come on, man. What are you doing, girl? But I think nowadays people are a lot prouder to be black. You see, even with the hairstyles, you don't really see people like, you know, fucking up their hair too much, with relaxer and shit. People are putting in wigs proudly. People are wearing braids proudly. People are dreading their hair proudly. People are listening to African music proudly. They're going to African music festivals, black music. I mean, it's a whole different world. So seeing this is a bit of a throwback, like, oh shit. But it also reminds me of this cream people used to use back in the day. It was a skin bleaching cream, right? If you know, you know. It was called Mekako. I remember seeing this in a few aunties. Mekako, right? Skin lightening. I remember seeing this in a few of aunties toilets back in the lightening aunties toilets back in the day. Mekako was the one. Yeah, that's the one. Mekako is a whitening. There we go. If you know, you know. Mekako. That one right there. Mekako. Mekako. That was the original skin lightening. Look at treatment. Look at lady on the left. See? That's what they'll advertise. You could go from black to white to mixed race to light skin. Like, absolutely crazy the kind of things they promote to black people, man. Colorism is awful. But the funny thing about colorism is that I'm not even going to get into it. Fuck the colorism debate. We're not going to do colorism right now. But either way, great cover. Very arresting. Grabs your attention straight away. Probably doesn't really make any sense to the album concept or the album in general, right? But it's just a really good cover conceptually. I think it's complete opposite of what Cardi B did. I think Cardi B's album cover for Am I Drama was horrendous. Makes no relation to the album title, no relation to the content, no relation to her. It's just awful. I would have much preferred if she had like a very, you know, if you're not going to do an album cover that relates to the title, at least just do an album cover that's just a sick picture to kind of grab people's attention. I think this does a really good job. Imagine this as the vinyl, you know what I mean? Like, that look amazing. Imagine seeing this on the CD. shelves if CDs were still around. So I really like the cover. I think the cover started off really well, and you got to see a little detail there. He's got blue eyes, bluish grayish eyes there as well. It looks fucking sick. So I really like that. That's the first thing I liked. And then the other first thing I liked as well when I played the album was Ninja. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of the memes around Ninja. I cannot wait for track 1 Ninja when Young Thug plays this live. When he goes on tour, or when he's able to play more live shows. I'm not sure if he can go on tour because of he's got very strict bail conditions. I think really strangely about Young Thug, one of his bail conditions, if I'm not mistaken, is that he can't hang around with any of his old friends. But in his bail conditions, he's allowed to hang out with Gunna. But since he's come out of jail, since he's been released, whatever, he's been on a one-man mission to remind everyone that Gunna's a snitch and he betrayed him. So it's weird because in court, he made it seem like he wanted to hang out with one Gunna and reconcile, and that was who he was going to be with all the time. But in actuality, they don't really hang out with each other and he can't really be anyone else. But anyway, regardless, I can't wait until he goes out on tour or whatever, because Ninja is going to be a really interesting song to hear people perform or sing along to in the crowd because of the amount of flipping N-bombs that are dropped towards the end of the track. The amount of N-bombs at the end of the track will be so incredible to hear people spit as they're singing along to it in the crowd. It goes, nigga, I'm calling my ups, nigga. They better not play with me, nigga. I sleep with the K with me, nigga. Some bad shit lay with me, nigga. My kids, they straight, you nigga. I'm not fake, you nigga. Black diamonds today, I'm a nigga. I'm calling my ups, nigga. I'm calling my ups, nigga. Honestly, I cannot wait to see all the TikToks, all the weird, uncomfortable moments, all the white people going, shh, every time that word comes up. It's going to be so funny. It's going to be so funny to see who trips up, who accidentally says it, who doesn't say it, who's performative, all this nonsense. I cannot wait. It's going to be so fucking entertaining. So that was a really good track. I really enjoyed that conceptually, and obviously the beats, the section as well is really fucking hard. The track with Ken Carson, surprisingly good, man. Not gonna lie, I didn't expect him to do a Ken Carson feature. That kind of came out of the blue, but I really did enjoy the Ken Carson track. I thought the Cardi B track, that one track on this album, I think is better than most of the tracks that Cardi B's got on her own album. Not gonna fucking lie about that. The standout track, obviously, is Whoop-De-Doo. The way he's been able to take that's the phrase that he said in that Big Bang interview, Whoop-De-Doo, and he spun it like 7 times in different types of ways, turned it into a bit of a melody, was fucking phenomenal. Whoop-De-Doo track 6, definitely one of my favorites on there. Sad Spider, I really enjoyed as well. The track actually with T.I. is actually pretty decent, although I'm not the biggest fan of T.I. He's got a couple of songs with Mariah the Scientist on the album, so I assume he's back with her, which got me thinking in general about like how good it must be to be a rapper sometimes. You have no normal people consequences, Like, rappers get away with so much cheating. They get away with so much shitty behavior to their girlfriends or wives or fiancés, right? It's not like they're doing this to like in general, you should treat all women the same anyway. Even if you're just gonna smash and dash, I think you should always be a gentleman across the board. So most people have a lot of good things to say about you when you're not in a room, right? That's one of the best things that people don't really talk about a lot. To be an actual real gentleman, you want women to talk well about you when you're not around to other women. Like, oh no, that guy's a good dude. Like, it didn't work out between us and shit. I would have liked it to have worked out, but life is life, it is. But that guy's a good dude. You want people to say that about you. So I think men, for the most part, I know I do anyway, you basically behave so that you have more options. Sometimes you're not even behaving because you want to behave. You're just behaving because you don't want to fuck up what you have, and you want to make sure that girls, give you the time of day. But rappers and stuff, they don't have to do that at all. They don't have to behave well. They don't have to do anything. They can fuck up 1,000,000 times. They can cheat on their partners 100,000 times, and they always come back. Like, it must be a great life. And it's not even like they're doing this with like, let's say scallywags from ends. They're doing this with like Mariah the Scientist level girls. You know what I mean? It's not like some random things. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's interesting. It's interesting. But big up them, big up their union. Glad it's still about. There's a track with Lil Baby on here called Pardon My Back, which in my opinion might be one of the best Lil Baby features I've heard in a while. Lil Baby's been on a weird run at the moment. I think I heard who is it? I think I heard Richard Ashcroft. That's what I heard. Big up Richard Ashcroft, right? Richard Ashcroft, lead singer of The Verve, was actually on How Long Gone just today, and he made a good point about why sometimes artists find it hard to continue making great music. And I think his statement was something, to paraphrase him, he was saying something like, sometimes as an artist, when you come into the game young, you don't know what you have to, you don't know how much you have to say really, or how much you have to give artistically. Sometimes you might be unlucky that all you had to give was your debut album, or maybe your sophomore album. And then after that, you've kind of run dry. You don't have anything more to tap into because you kind of said it all. But then you might be super young still and you feel like you have to say more. But then you try to say more and the quality of the music isn't that great because it's not coming from a real place. You're forcing it, blah, 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 blah. So I'm wondering if maybe Lil Baby is suffering for the same thing. Maybe Lil Baby said what he said in those early mixtapes, those early tapes that we got from him, those early freestyles. He got to a certain point and there's just nothing more to say about his story. And, you know, but unfortunately in the industry, music-wise, you don't really get to retire, you know? You just have to keep grinding. The only person who kind of really has retired, I think, in them for what I can see in the modern times has been probably like Joe Budden. But he's also retired, you know, with the benefit of having this amazing podcast that he has to kind of fall back on. I think it's probably a bit different if you're just an artist, like a straight up artist, and you got nothing else to fall back on. So it becomes a little bit, you know, a little bit shaky. But still, I enjoyed this freestyle. I wonder if it had to do with the time away. Maybe he recorded. I would like to know when it was recorded, but that was actually a really, really good feature there. There's a song here with YFN Lucci, which is weird because the whole reason why the YSL Rico went down was because of the beef between, you know, YSL and YFN, and the butting of heads between Thug and particularly Lucci. And if I'm not mistaken, people died, yeah, off of the back of this. People went to prison. So to see these two guys on an album, if you're one of the crash outs, if you're one of the goons, if you're one of the shooters who may have got in trouble, who may be in the afterlife, and you're seeing these guys linking up, you're going to be a bit perturbed. You're going to be a bit pissed off, really. But in the nature of, you know, in the interest of harmony and continuing on, not such a bad thing. So I guess it is what it is. There's a track called Walk Down featuring 21 Savage that is made me interested in 21 Savage again. I think 21 Savage did a really good job in terms of disappearing for a while. He hasn't been around in a long time. Doesn't drop in a long time either. I think it's a good thing. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I think when he does end up dropping, which he said he will drop soon, when he ends up dropping again, I think people are going to be very energized and you know, excited for his new project or whatever he has coming up. So I really enjoyed that feature. I didn't the Travis Scott feature. I could do without it. Spider or Jeffrey, I could do without it. But one of my favorite tracks on there is track 13, which will end up being my song of the day at the end, which is called Revenge, featuring 1300 Saint and Lil Got It. Like, they both spun and slid all over this shit. They both spun and slid all over this shit. It would have been nice to see, like, what's that guy? What's that kid called? Nine Vicious, the one that kind of, you know, looks up a lot. He treats Thug the way Thug used to treat Lil Wayne. He really idolizes Thug. But I think Nine Vicious has had some allegations on his name about being a alleged PDF or something. So I think that might have been a reason why Thug decided not to put him on the album. He doesn't want any controversy and shit. I don't know. But I would have liked to have heard him on there if like 1300 Saint was on there. It was good to hear Lil Got It as well doing his thing. Money on Money, we've heard that already with Future. Not really a big fan of that one. And then obviously Miss My Dogs at the end. Which, you know, I'm not really for me, to be honest. But in general, I really did enjoy the album overall. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. I think maybe like a high 6.5 out of 10. But one thing I was thinking about listening to this album, right? I was thinking to myself, like, did Young Thug fuck up with how he came out? With the fact that we never got a first day out freestyle from him, right? We never got a first day out freestyle. He didn't really drop a lot of music at all. He was going out of his way to besmirch. No, he's going out of his way to kind of, you know, put smut on Gunna's name because of the snitching thing. He was doing that even before he was out, right? He was calling people because we heard about the phone calls to Lil Baby and a few other people about Gunna being a snitch, right? We heard about them before. I think Academics is the one that leaked the fact that Thug was calling people, telling them, nah, Gunna snitched. I don't fuck with him anymore. He wasn't meant to do that. He wasn't meant to do yes, ma'am. That's fuck shit. So he was already on the campaign to kind of put smut on Gunna's name. And unfortunately for him, though, Gunna, although he didn't ever contest those allegations, because most likely they're true, he is a snitch because, you know, he said what he said. What he did instead was just focus on the music. He focused on the music. He just kept dropping. Imagine, do you remember that, what's it called? What was that song that he dropped when he came out? He dropped that song where it's got an amazing black and white video and he's wearing like a fucking ski mask, right? I think it's called Guns and Butter. I think it's called Guns and Butter. I think it's Guns and Butter. That Guns and Butter freestyle, that was like his first day out. That was harder than hard, man. That addressed all the controversies, that addressed all the conversation, everything people wanted to hear. He kind of addressed it in that one particular track. Like Bread and Butter, not Guns and Butter, Bread and Butter. He absolutely killed it. And he just kept dropping more music. And you know what made me think about this whole situation? There's been a whole conversation around snitching, all this malarkey. The thing that Young Thug, I think, fucked up is that I don't think he understood that a lot of people really liked Young Thug because of his aura. Similar like Carti. I think the aura is incredibly important to artists like Thug and that. And I think you saw a little bit of Carti. Remember when Carti went on stream with Aiden Ross and it kind of went south? I think it was a good idea that he left because you probably don't want to, as much as it'll be good to hear from Carti to speak normally in an interview, I don't think fans actually want to hear him long form like that and see anything corny or like not cool about him because it'll make you not like the music. The reason why we kind of love Carti and we kind of hold him up as a really great artist and we love the albums he comes with and the different looks and the aesthetics and the sounds is partly because of how aloof, how kind of weird, how kind of, you know, out there he is. But the moment you kind of lower your guard and you become a bit more vulnerable, you start talking a bit more, it takes away from the aura. I honestly do think so. So I think Thug has kind of suffered a lot from that. Although I think he's more talented. Although I think he has a better range rapping, maybe a higher ceiling rapping. I think he suffered a lot because he lost a lot of that aura. He lost a lot of that cool factor about him when he started complaining about Gunna, coming out crying about all that sort of stuff, complaining, even though he was being vulnerable, even though he was like pouring his heart out, putting his heart on his sleeve. People don't want to see that. People view him, for lack of a better term, please forgive me for saying this, because it sounds very glazy, but people view him as a superhero. I think they view most musicians like a superhero. And I think once you kind of try to act normal, like a regular person, it kind of takes away from that magic and people don't believe the superhero anymore. And then it kind of goes away and then your music also doesn't hit the same. I think it works the same way where if a rapper who's known for like talking about scamming and shit gets indicted on some massive, you know, worldwide scamming thing that was meant to make him $1 billion, it's going to make his music hit way harder. Same thing happens when someone kills somebody, when somebody, you know, gets into a fight or whatever. It adds to their allure, it adds to their mystique, it adds to their brand, it adds to their artistry. And I think for Young Thug, it's done the opposite. All the crying and complaining about the snitching, all of the non-activity, it's really hampered him. But what it comes down to, my final point, what it comes down to is this. The most important thing, really, across the board, in any form of entertainment or art, is the final product. Just keep dropping. The yapping is one thing, explaining yourself, but the really important thing is to just keep dropping great stuff. If you keep dropping great stuff, all will be forgiven. No one really talks too much about the Gunna snitching stuff. Nobody really cares that much about how Gunna snitched and betrayed one of his closest friends and the person really responsible for kind of, you know, giving him that leg up, that platform to kind of go fucking superstar mode. No one really talks about that because Gunna just keeps dropping great music. And and as an aside, as a bonus, he also seems like he's changed his ways. Like he's almost learned a lesson from that trial that he went through. How crazy it must have been, how stressful it must have been. And he changed everything about his life. He's kind of lost half of his body weight. He looks incredible. He sounds incredible on records. He's doing all these great collaboration and brand deals. Recently, he dropped he's got like a little line he does with Under Armour and shit. So I think people gravitate towards that sort of stuff. They see you trying to make positive changes, but most importantly, you're dropping some of the best music you've ever dropped in your career. And I think Thug really made a mistake. He should have dropped some of this stuff in the beginning. He should have gave us he should have gave us a First Day Out record. Even that First Day Out record, just in you know, contain him just going at Gunna. He should have dropped it. He should have given us something. But the fact that he didn't give us anything is what maybe lost a bit of his cool, made people turn their opinion on him or change their opinion on him. But this was a reminder that he's still a really good artist. He can still put out great music. Is it as good as some of the other stuff in the past? I don't think so. But I still think it's a solid 7 out of 10. And considering all the crazy shit he was saying, the mental place he's been in, I wasn't expecting that. So he did surprise me. I really enjoyed it. I really, really, really enjoyed it.